Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Ojai Historic Preservation Commission. We'll start with roll call. Mr. Rager.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. We'll start with Commissioner Convery.
Here.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
Vice Chair Akins.
Here.
And Chair McCready.
Here.
Thank you. You do have one continuing vacant position, but other than that, all commissioners are present.
Thank you. With that, if you'll please rise, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members of the public wishing to address the Historic Preservation Commission on items appearing on the agenda are requested to complete a speaker's card. The green cards are out in the hall. And file it with the secretary or the chair prior to the start of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Cards are available in the council chambers lobby. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the chair. Speakers should state their name and address for the record and must direct their comments to the chair, not the audience or press. While the Historic Preservation Commission is in session, members of the commission, city staff, and members of the audience are expected to remain in order and decorum and to obey the orders of the chair. Museum Representative Mark Lewis, welcome.
Thank you, Chair McCready. Hello, Commissioners. Matt. The museum is, we're having busy times, which is a good thing. On Saturday, the community celebrated the Ojai Centennial Jubilee. We appreciate everyone who came out. Many came out and had a good time, so we're happy about that. As part of the Centennial, we did have a play scheduled for this evening in Libby Bowl. That has been put off. So anyone within the sound of my voice, do not go to Libby Bowl at 7:30 tonight. We will reschedule that. This is going to be a great thing. Peter Fox wrote it. Joan Kemper and her crew, Stuart Crowner, are producing it. But we need to find a reliably dry night, and we will. So stay tuned for further updates on that. The museum board at our last monthly meeting did approve a redesign by Doug Lochner of his gates, and he did respond to the comments and concerns of the commissioners, and I think you're going to like what you see. I understand the City Council has decided that you folks and Arts Commission are going to consider this simultaneously. Doug Lochner is working on the drawings that would accompany a presentation, and at the next, when you folks tell us the joint meeting, whenever it may be, we will show up to present Doug's new design, which I think is terrific. Anyway, we like it a lot. So that would be forthcoming. Apart from that, we have a new exhibit, which is going to open on a week from Saturday, April 22nd. It's the annual Ojai Studio Artist Show, but this year, because it's the Centennial Jubilee of the Libby Centennial, their theme is going to be Visualized Idealism, which is taken from a comment Libby made at his speech, which we recreated last Saturday. Jim Lashley portrayed Libby. Visualized Idealism. So that will be open on the 22nd, and there's a reception that night from 5 to 7. All are welcome. And Chamber of Commerce mixer that OSA and the museum are going to host will be on the 27th for those that are into Chamber of Commerce mixers in their fund. So all are welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Can I? I'd like to ask you a question. I watched the city council meeting on Tuesday, and I don't know what was going on with the television, but it seemed like we caught part of it, and then they adjourned, and then the next day I caught more of it. There was what I had heard is that there was going to be discussion of the city gates at Tuesday's meeting. Did I miss something?
At the City Council meeting?
Yeah.
Yes, Brian,
Can I
Commissioner
respond to
Akins,
that?
I believe, was there. He can address this more directly than I can.
I was there.
Actually came late because I was umpiring a baseball game. But I did get there in time for this discussion. The discussion before the city council was whether the gates to the museum, the front and then the side, should go before the Arts Commission as public art. Just a correction to one thing that was said in talking with David Mason tonight. The city council had inferred that there were gates there at one time. David Mason says there were never gates there at any time. The only protection of the museum at one time was when they were restoring it and they had chain link in the way. So never any gates before these gates. These gates are security. Also mentioned as public art in the video presentation, not in the notes that were passed out to the city council. So they felt like that there was maybe a bit of a misstep somewhere along the line, that actually they were artistic, going to be some kind of artistic. They were going to be on public property that's actually owned by the city council, and therefore the city council should have some say in the design. So Councilman Wyrick and Councilman Blatz had emphasized that they wanted it then to go ended with suggesting that it go in a joint meeting between the Historic Preservation Commission and the Arts Commission. Christine Golden was there representing the Arts Commission for, I think, that item and other items. She felt like CAPA, Community Arts Program, Committee to accept public art should be involved in that. Councilman Wyrick made a motion that a joint meeting be held between the Historic Preservation Commission and the Arts Commission to come up to make a decision on what would be proposed to the city council. So that was the motion. It was approved, I think, 4-1. And so that's where we are on that. So they did discuss it.
With that, I'm going to move on to the consent item, the minutes of the February 9th, 2017 meeting. Commissioner Akins, you chaired, or do you have any corrections or revisions?
Well, I thought I chaired, but I looked in the minutes and it said you chaired it, so.
Well, that's one correction.
So,
Phantom.
Yeah, that's right.
other than that, I didn't see any corrections, other than that one that stood out right off the bat.
Commissioner Akins, where is that?
In the first
Call to
line.
order, after call to order.
Yeah.
I think someone's using a template.
Oh, Chair McCready, okay.
Do any of the other commissioners have corrections or clarifications on the minutes?
I just had one clarification. This is under the commentary about the sign that was approved for the arcade. And there was a question that was brought up by Commissioner Quinn, asking if the city council would measure the height of the ground, from the ground. I just want to know, was that done?
To my knowledge, there's not been any follow-up on that. I did transmit that concern to the community development director. I'm not sure what, if any, follow-up there has been.
Can we have that put on the next agenda then, so we can find out?
Sure. I was told that it was unlikely that city forces would be able to do that, but I'll try and get some clarity on that.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item number 2. Sign permit S17-06 to display 27 pennants in the arcade arches, pennants in the arcade arches, pennant on the City of Ojai Historic Landmark Building Number 5, the Arcade, and Libby Park Pergola for Ojai Youth Opera Company. Mr. Winiger?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to place banners 27 pennant banners in the arches of the arcade for a period of time to advertise a production by the Ojai Youth Opera Company. We have a full-scale sample of the banner here, or the pennant here on the table, and there are illustrations in your packet as well. The city has adopted criteria for the display of temporary pennants and banners in the arcade. It addresses such things as materials that are appropriate and content. The content is actually rather limited under the guidelines of the arcade restrictions, and basically limits the content of the banner in terms of the actual written content to the name of the production, the date, and the time of the event. So with that, staff recommends approval of the sign permit subject to the conditions that are in attachment A of your staff report, including the restriction on the written content to be consistent with the arcade guidelines. I'd be happy to answer any questions that members of the commission may have.
Thank you, Mr. Winiger. Commissioner Hill?
Yes. Then the pictures that are in the packet, they also contain a statement, "Never underestimate the voice of a child." Is that going to be on the banner? That's kind of an extra item, and I thought that was, they were not to do that.
That is correct, and this was their original submission. So we are modifying this content by virtue of the conditions of approval. So essentially, per the conditions, the content would be limited to that which is below that. You have a, okay.
Are you the applicant?
Yes, yes.
Why don't you approach and identify yourselves, and we'll open it up to you.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Hello, Commission. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Rebecca Comerford. I am the director of Ojai Youth Opera Company, and this is Jen Miller, who is on my board of directors, part of our original board, and is also part of our marketing and development for OYO. So we also brought, after we had found out about the stipulations, we wanted to be compliant with what is required for the pennants. So we did bring a couple of different options as well this evening that would be compliant with, I think, what you just stated in terms of not having additional writing. One other thing that recently happened is that the city of Ojai, I think we would list them as, I don't know if we're required to, but I would like to. I know it's additional writing, but they did give us a waiver for the bowl. So I know that they had stated if we do receive a waiver grant for the bowl in terms of the performances on the 13th, that we should list any of our materials sponsored by the city of Ojai. So is that one stipulation that would be?
It wouldn't have to be.
It wouldn't be on that. Okay.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes, I would like to ask some questions about the specific ones. So the "never underestimate the voice of a child," that would not appear. The Brundeleber,
Wunderbar, yes.
Brundebar.
That's okay.
I should know that because I know where this is coming from, and I visited this city and this camp. Will the appearance of the Ojai Youth Opera, is that going to be on the banner?
Well,
The top?
that is the only, I think, we would take, the only thing that we would have in terms of writing, and then the time, yeah.
Right, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how many arches do we have?
27, I believe.
I thought we were doing these things every other arch. and weren't doing them all, in all arches.
I looked and there's some in each arch right now. They have pennants in there right now, or they did this weekend in each
But I
arch.
thought, somewhere I had the feeling, we've gone through this discussion about the number of pennants, and I thought it was one for every other arch.
There's nothing in the guidelines that I recall, and they're included in
I
here.
read them,
Yes.
and you end the last attachment, and it says, let's see, here, it's on the back page. It's notwithstanding the foregone pennants listed on the attachment shall be approved by the Community Development Department on an ongoing basis. And then it says, for pennant designs is existing as of tonight. And I didn't know what that meant.
I think there are standard banners for certain events, so I think that was what that attachment refers to. So
Okay,
like the tennis tournament.
right, I understand that. And we've gone through this before where we said that the only, in the list, and they blocked out, there's supposedly a calendar that schedules these events. And the events are supposed to be city events that would take place within the city park or on Main Street, right there where the arcade is. And a storm broke out when, at the last minute, one agency came before our board, our commission, and wanted to find out about hanging pennants, and that was through the Chamber of Commerce, and that was on the Pixie, the Pixie ones, and that was said. It was questioned as to why that was the only commercial pennant that was hung in the arcade, and then there were other merchants that wanted to do likewise. And so it was a question of keeping them as public or civic type of activities. Now, this one clearly goes under a civic one because it's being done by the Ojai Youth Opera. But last year, when this came up again, and all of a sudden here comes the tangerine or the Pixie signs again, we questioned that. And it was told to us that the permission to do that again we would have to vote whether or not that was going to happen. That never happened. They're up again. And so I'm wondering about the scheduling, who gets to get what, and I noticed you use the first come, first serve. Who does that pertain to? It's just a lot of loose wires going on with the pennant policy. I have no problems with this particular applicant, and I think it's going to be an interesting event, and I think it's very worthwhile. But as far as the overall activity on the part of the policy, what good is the policy? What good is the policy if you violate it? And obviously, there's been a violation for the Pixie one this year because that wasn't supposed to come back. That was supposed to be reviewed again this year.
I'll ask about that. I don't know if that is on the
out of
attached
the-
list or not.
Well, it's out of the box now. Those banners are about ready to come down, and they went up without any oversight on our part.
What kind of banners did we
Excuse me,
have previously?
Commissioner James?
Oh, sorry.
Pennants.
What kind of pennants have we had previously? Has it been just
Sure,
for, like
we
the
have
music festival or?
And tennis tournament and so on. And there's a few of the, there's a grandfathered list
Okay.
that we have given lifetime permissions to hang those pennants. But the pixie tangerine thing, or pixie thing, was not one of them.
I think Commissioner Hill is correct. I think we did revise the pennant rules for times that, and for frequency and for numbers. I have no objection to this particular applicant, so I just want to make sure that it's compliant with those rules and that the Community Development Director is chasing that. Do any of the other commissioners have any comments or questions about this application? Commissioner Akins?
Sorry. Just one thing, and this is more staff. If you go to page 2 of 3 under discussion, the first paragraph and the second paragraph, having just met Mr. Libby on Saturday, I can tell you that he spells his name Libbey, which you did correctly in the pennant. Thank you very much. But
One of these days, I'll get that correct.
I'm told that without the E, that's a vegetable.
Really? Oh, it's the canning company.
Anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments or questions on this application?
I like the poster. I think it's other. Are these
Mike?
children in the cast?
Mike.
Or- I'm sorry, it is on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not close enough. Are the
all the way
children in the pictures from the cast? Or?
No, these are actually public domain images of
oh.
Holocaust children who were either in Theresienstadt concentration camp or in other concentration camps. And we thought that they were so evocative and beautiful that we wanted to showcase
Yeah,
them. So.
they are. It's
yeah.
really wonderful.
I had not heard of your organization. It looks like it's going to be a very nice event. I like the design. If there are no other comments or questions, I would entertain a motion.
I have a question.
Oh, please go ahead.
As the designer,
Please go ahead.
I want to just clarify so we get it right. So on the sample that we brought tonight, all the samples, obviously we took off the tagline because we had been told that was, we kept the logo on. I don't know if that's, I mean, it's the only identifier of who we are, so I'm not sure if it's okay. We had sponsored by City of Ojai, but I just wanted to clarify that's not on the sign.
It's not required, but you may include it if yes.
Okay, I just wanted.
And you are going to have the little point on it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it'll
It
be,
has-
yeah.
I had a question. You discussed that originally it was a 2-ply type of pennant,
Yes.
and you've changed it to a 1-ply.
No,
No,
it's actually
it's
two
two.
pennants. When you do a double-sided pennant, what they do is so that it's heavy and doesn't,
Right.
they sew it together just as it has been sewn there together in the, in the industrial machines. And then it's weighted at the bottom. This one, because we were in a hurry to get it to you guys, it's not weighted, but they will in fact, have a weight in the bottom so that they hang straight and pretty and all of that. Yeah.
And that way we'll address one of the issues in our conditions.
Yeah, one of the things, that was one of the objections to the Pixie thing, is that it's not double, and it blows around, and often it gets twisted and so on.
These are double.
Yeah.
Yeah, the material will also be,
That's canvas-like.
yeah, so the material itself will hang
Right.
heavier, and then it will be weighted at the bottom, right?
Yeah,
Kim?
and there are two different images on each side, so there are 5 images total, and each arch will have a different image, and on the back side it will be, a different image. So yeah, but it's 2 together. Yes.
One of the things is that was, in the past, we did it for Ojai Day, and they ruled that, and this was coming from the businesses, that the image should only be on the front side facing Ojai Avenue, and where they used to have on the back sides Chumash symbols, those were taken off, and it was just a plain black presentation. And if you're going to have pictures on both sides, that flies in the face of what we've done in the past.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hill, I wasn't aware of that discussion, and there isn't anything in the policy that addresses that. I could certainly follow up on that, but
Yeah.
as of right now, that is not prohibited under the policy, at least.
One of the problems that we're facing here tonight, and I can see it, I'm the only one that's been around during the history of the pennants, and the rest of my commissioners they're coming to grips with it as we see it now. And you're new too, and that's one of the problems of city government, as we've faced many times.
I'm hearing what Commissioner Hill is saying. I have a little bit of institutional history, not as much as Commissioner Hill, but we've had past commissioners that wanted no pennants on the building, and there's some wisdom to that. So with that,
Well, I just like
Commissioner Quinn?
I'd just like to say that I think it on both sides makes sense, because if you're walking down the arcade and you see a pennant and you want to know what it says, you don't really want to go out in Ojai Avenue to read it. And I agree with you, Commissioner Hill, that I've not been here a really long time, but I just feel that it makes sense to have it on both sides.
The businesses were saying people are looking at those and not in their shop windows.
Well, you only have to look at one to know what it says, I think, but.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve it.
I second it.
As amended by Mr. and
Yes.
By staff.
Correct, yes, by staff.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I already have my tickets.
Oh, and I just wanted to say that I think that that's really, thank you so much. And that's in the spirit of Libby's visualized individualism. I think it's great. It's great. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
May we leave these for you too?
Uh-huh.
We'd
Yeah.
love that.
Please do.
Information? Okay. Thanks very much.
Gives you more backstory about it all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Item 3.
Oh, can we, while we're still on this point, can I ask that at the next meeting, that we receive a report from what happened with the Pixie, and that we discuss the policy more?
And just to reiterate, Commissioner Hill is correct. We discussed several issues, and it was the number of pennants, the number of weeks of the year that pennants could be in the arcade, and we discussed materials, I believe, a number of issues. So he is correct on that. Item number 3.
And that was probably in the last year to year and a half, if
Yeah.
I remember right. so.
As far as the Pixie thing, it was, but we've had lots and lots of rip-roaring discussions on this item.
If Rose Boggs were here,
She would.
she would have some words. Item number 3, plaque language for City of Ojai Historic Landmark Number 21, the Maravilla Company, or Twice Sold Tales, located at 121 East Ojai Avenue. Mr. Winiger?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item appeared on the previous agenda for your last meeting, and there was discussion amongst the commission about the copy of the, and content of the plaque itself, as well as some other issues relative to dimensions and other aspects of the plaque. Since that time, we've had further discussion with Mr. Lambert, representing Twice Sold Tales. He did go back to his board and reported that they are perfectly happy with the copy of the, and text of the plaque as proposed, and with the dimensions. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the plaque as presented in your staff report.
Do any of the commissioners have questions or comments? Mr. Hill, is this the correct language?
The only thing I brought up at the last meeting was, there was a lot of copy on this particular plaque. It's probably, and I know they put some of the other plaques in here as samples. And there are a couple that kind of, I noticed the post office is pretty verbose, but I have no problems with what is said, as long as it says everything it should say.
And I think it does. It is one of the longer ones that we've approved. And is there any, does it specify in here where it goes on the building, or is that to be determined later?
I think there's an illustration that shows generally where it's going to go.
I was looking for that. Did I miss that? Obviously, it would be on the front.
Oh, it's in the pictures.
It's neither here nor there. I just think it should be spelled out so that,
Agreed.
I
I thought there was a note on the front elevation, but it doesn't appear to that be the case. But it would be, as I understand, it'll be adjacent to the door.
it would be on the wall of the front of the building.
That's the most appropriate place.
Yeah.
So it would be on the wall of
Yes.
the front of the
On front-
building.
Front of the building, yes. Facing
Commissioner
the-
Quinn?
I'd just like to say that in the past, we've allowed the person getting the plaque to put the plaque in an appropriate place, rather than deciding it here. In my case, a member of the commission did come out, and I showed them where I wanted it, and they agreed that that was fine, but not like the whole commission. So I'd like to not get started on another thing that we're going to be
Yeah.
pinpointing from applicants.
I hear you, my concern is that sometimes in the past, we've had an applicant that chose not to place the plaque at all, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the language for the plaque.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Item 4, Smith Hobson House Historic Resource Survey. Mr. Winiger?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, once again, at your last meeting, there was a presentation and discussion on the historic resource survey for the Smith Hobson House, which also serves as the structure we're sitting in, City Hall. And there was clarification regarding some of the information relative to the resource survey itself in terms of the structural elements, but there was also rather extensive discussion about the grounds on which the City Hall is located. And the commission directed staff to look into further information, provide further information relative to the properties that make up the estate, as well as the other potential evaluation of the other structures, original structures that are located on the estate as well. We did receive, we asked for a proposal from Provenance Group that prepared the Historic Resource Survey to survey the grounds of the estate as well as the other out structures, and their estimate is approximately $2,800. The commission also asked for further investigation into the properties that make up the estate. As I understand it, there were a couple of different acquisitions related to the property. That effort has not gone on any further. We're awaiting authorization to do that. But back to the Historic Resource Survey, should the commission wish to pursue the evaluation of the grounds, that is the approximate cost that would be incurred. Therefore, we would ask that you provide direction to staff as to whether or not to make a request of the city council for that supplemental funding, as the budget does not, would not be sufficient to cover that additional evaluation. I did speak to Carol Donato, who is the principal of Providence Group. She offered that she thought there would be some issues relating to landmarking the grounds of the estate as well, because they've been compromised by the construction and development of the Help of Ojai facility that's on part of the original estate. But if the commission chooses to or wishes to pursue this effort, we're certainly willing to carry that on to the city council.
Thank you.
Could I
I'd like
comment?
to, before we start commissioner comment period, I'd like to get into the record that we have a letter from former Historic Preservation Commissioner Craig Walker advocating for including the grounds in the landmarking, and from also a letter from David Mason, former commissioner and museum liaison, with information on the house. With that, I'll open it up to discussion.
I have comments. I agree
Commissioner
with-
Convery?
Thank you. I agree with Craig Walker's email urging us to landmark the grounds. Last meeting, I think you remember that I discussed the National Trust. You can't landmark an estate without landmarking the grounds. It's not an estate. An estate is not just the building. An estate is an estate. I also sent a copy of the original grant deed, which gave the gift to Ojai. I didn't see it in this package, so I can read the language to you if you would like to hear about what their initial or what their request was. So, you know, basically the Smith-Hobson family gave the home and the grounds to the city of Ojai. The deed, and this is when they refer to the property in this deed, they're referring not to the home, they're referring to the entire property. It says, "This conveyance is made upon the expressed condition that the within described property shall be used by the grantee only for public purposes, including, but not by way of limitation, the right of the grantee to repair, remodel, and/or demolish any structures located on the property, and to build thereon any type of public building." When you're talking about a public building in regards to historic preservation and the National Trust, you're talking about a building that's available to the public, like Health of Ojai, a gazebo to get married in, community garden, and the type of things that have been done here. Continuing, but without the right of the grantee to sell, exchange, or lease said premises, except that grantee may rent said premises for public events, you know, a wedding. Is that a public event? No, I'm wrong. You know, a public event. So anyway, that's the language, and I feel that given the history of the grounds, the recent history, last year, I believe it was about approximately a year ago, there was a move by the city council to try to take this grant land and build a 3-story, 40-unit apartment building with exterior parking on this land. That is not for public use. You know, it was put down. But I think by not landmarking the grounds, you don't protect it, and that kind of movement can happen again. And the city, you know, the residents have to stand up and spend a lot of time fighting for this gift. And, you know, I think that's really, really urgent, and I think Craig Walker in his email understands that, and Dave Mason. You know, the National Trust of Historic Preservation never has landmarked an estate without landmarking the surrounding grounds that came with it, the property. So that's my comment.
Well, it would be against the deed to do an apartment, so that would be basically illegal, right, if you did that?
Doesn't mean they can't try.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner, were you going to say, Commissioner Akins?
Well, we talked about this extensively in our meeting that we held two months ago. I thought we were going to end that meeting with a motion and a vote until I was told that we couldn't make a motion and a vote, that wasn't on the agenda to be made. I was told then by Councilman Wyrick that we could have and should have made that motion and vote. One thing. The other thing is there was, again, quite an extensive discussion. If you read through the minutes, which just conveniently happened to be a part of our package tonight, you'll see that quite a bit of information was requested of staff, and a legal guidelines was requested of Attorney Summers on whether we could landmark the building and then subsequent to that, landmark the grounds. I'm going back to one of the comments you made in your presentation tonight, that it sounded like the staff and attorney weren't authorized to spend the money on those efforts? Did I understand you correctly? Okay, so I guess I was, in fact, when I was looking through the package, I kept going, well, where's all that information? And so I flipped page by page by page, wondering what I had missed. And then I went backwards, trying to figure out what I had missed, because instead of the extensive information that we had asked for and the ruling that we had, and guidance we had asked for, we got one page. So somebody other than us made the decision that.
May I comment?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm really surprised that this happened, Brian, what you just described, that we didn't get the information we requested. First of all, I want to point out that the person you referenced in your comment, that the grounds are not intact, that they've been compromised, is erroneous. The grounds are intact. They're around us. The Libby estate has the grounds around it. It had a 1960s swimming pool, which would have compromised it if that definition were true. It didn't compromise it. The current owner is removing that 1960s swimming pool and putting in an appropriate building that suits that estate. So saying that the grounds are not intact and they've been compromised is, a really disingenuous argument, and I don't know where that came from. I'm really disappointed that we didn't get the materials we requested. This is a really important issue. And I question its staff recommends that Historic Preservation Commission proceed with a recommendation. Staff takes direction from the City Council. Staff is told that they're not allowed to give us the material we need, and yet a couple of the members, 3 of the existing City Council members, were pushing this 3-story, 40-unit apartment building, and they're the ones who aren't providing us the material. So I find that extremely questionable.
Does that mean the city would have owned the apartment building, or that's confusing?
You need to have your mic on.
That's neither here nor there, because we don't know what the backstory was there. It was about building a part. When I read that deed out loud, it says not for rent, not for lease.
Mhm, yeah.
And there was a big argument about,
I agree with you there.
there was a lot of wordplay going on, and it was against the deed. It was wrong. And I feel very strongly that the staff is getting direction. I would like to know what kind of direction they're getting, who they're getting it from, why we're not getting the material, and if this issue is going to come back, and that's why we're being stymied about landmarking the grounds around the estate that were a gift with the house.
Commissioner Akins?
Thank you. A couple things. The city council, I believe, can only give direction to the city manager and to the city attorney. They're the only people that they hire. And so city staff gets their direction from the city manager. And so I see that repeated in the different meetings. The other question, when we met 2 months ago, I was all for and thought we were about to make a vote to landmark this building and then proceed with the rest, again recognizing that in that meeting that we had expended our budget and didn't have the money, the money to further that historical resources report, and the fact that a historical resources report tends to take somewhere between 12 and 18 months, it seems like. We'll talk about one of those later. The one concern that we talked about, or 2 concerns, one in talking to people, especially my good friend David Mason, that one of the key elements of the estate is the barn that's way down there on the hill. He thought that barn may have predated the actual building. And so here we are with a historical structure that's, for some reason, not included in the historical report. I know Commissioner Hill mentioned the tennis court that's back right to us, having walked on that tennis court and sat in the covering area and imagined what it would have been like. That's, important. So, so
Yeah.
I would like to get to landmark what we can, but only with the vision of then looking to landmark the whole property. So again, whether we can do that or not, we asked for a decision from Council Summers, unable to get that. And again, Commissioner DeCombry has provided us update information since that meeting, so.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes. In the remarks, we began this big dialogue, and the minutes are pretty accurate because they spell out what each one of us said about what we would like to see done. And I know I started this off with the discussion about the tennis court. And then we received not only this time with a letter from Craig Walker and from David Mason, but last time we also received a stack of letters urging us to landmark the estate or the whole piece of property. I had asked at that meeting, in my comments, that we have the city attorney look into the possibility that we could landmark the entire operation, because there was some discussion about landmarking just this building and doing the grounds later. And as we got deeper and deeper into the discussion, it became apparent that was going to become very cumbersome, and there would be bringing a lot of other parties into it that would hamper a final conclusion along the lines that we would like. So I totally agree with Brian and Craig and Cindy that this should be done by us, and it should be done as an entire package, rather than as a little bit now, a little bit later. And the revelation of David Mason's observation about the barn was something that hadn't been discussed before, and it puts even more impetus to landmark the grounds.
I agree. I know about the barn, and I silly me, I assumed we were landmarking the entire property, and that was the effort that we were pursuing. So I guess what I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners is that we table this until we get the requested information back from staff. Commissioner Akins?
So I guess since we're usually the ones requesting people get historical resources reports, why exactly do we need another historical resources report? Do we need another historical resources report, or do we have information enough from this to be able to make a motion to present the entire state as a landmark?
That's
a good question.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
We can move to landmark the.
Yeah. We have the boundaries, we have the deed information, that information's available. I think a historic report on the grounds is totally a waste of money.
Yeah.
Like, Ramin did not need a historical report on a 1960s swimming pool at the Libby Estate. That's what we're wasting our money on.
Good point.
So, big deal, Help of Ojai is there. It's a public use building, it's a not-for-profit building. And in future, if somebody wants to build a version of Help of Ojai, it would come before us because it would be built on historic property. And we would then be able to, guide it toward unity with the estate. I would like to, I believe we can make a motion to landmark the property, the entire estate, as described by the deed, the boundaries in the deed.
I'll entertain a motion.
So I would go ahead.
Commissioner
I'm
Akins?
sorry. I would like to make a motion that we make a recommendation to the city council that the entirety of the Libby estate which includes the building that we're in, includes the barn, includes the other areas of the estate as we've discussed and designated, that takes in account the historical report that we did receive, and that we move ahead with that recommendation to the city council, recommending to them that the entire estate be landmarked.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes.
One of the interesting things about our last meeting was that in the letters, Elise DePoit, and a big historian in purposes of the museum and what she's already published, she sent us a picture, and it showed 3 people stepping off a building, the steps of a building into the tennis court, and the guy on the far left was Austin Pierpont. As Cindy knows so well. But anyway, there's a lot of support for this, and I think that this was a good motion tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Item number 5, 2017 and 2018 city budget requests. Mr. Winiger?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the city staff are currently preparing, drafting the information, background information, forecasting relative to the city budget. It's an opportunity for the commission to identify any requests that you wish to make to the city council. Previous requests, such as the what we're just discussing, the historic resource survey, would be typical of the type of requests that you may want to make. There are other sorts of things, such as other things related to landmark monumentation or other sort of things that you could consider as well. So we're open to whatever discussion and thoughts that the commission may want to pursue in terms of budget requests.
In past years, the council has approved funds for commissioners to attend the summer conservation and historic preservation classes at USC. I think we would want to request that again this year.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yeah, I have one of the hot button points at this time is the future of the olive mill. And there's a lot of discussion going on. There's discussion about the historic report. There's discussion about not having it eligible for landmarking. I brought up an item that I would like to see discussed and perhaps passed. And that might be something that would work its way into a budgetary item, and that is the erecting of markers, historic markers, for the olive mill and for the train station.
I can address
Commissioner Akins?
Okay, so you'd think for an out-of-towner that I enjoy going to public meetings. So I did go to the Planning Commission meeting. I checked the agendas when they come through. I hadn't seen 601 Pearl in a while, and it popped up. We had actually seen the historical report on the 601 Pearl, the olive mill, back in December 10th, 2015. It was brought to us. There were, I think, 4 of us that were here at that time: Rose, yourself, Craig, Darwin, maybe 5, myself. So there was a discussion on that. There were questions on it. There were questions about the historical report that was taking place. There was a request by Commissioner Vice Chair Walker to peer review that report. There were questions to Attorney Summers. We were advised that the action on this was in the future, and that could have been because it had been before folks in 2008, 2012, 2014, 2016, and so And we were told that our comments would be passed along to the planning commission. So I came to the meeting that night expressing my concern and making the planning commission aware that once again, a project that may be historical in nature with a historic report had come before the planning commission that had not come before the Historic Preservation Commission. It was kind of a shot in the dark because that was the last meeting they were going to have before they approved it. In that meeting, it was interesting to see that the applicant complimented staff in the Planning Commission for having them come before the Planning Commission to answer any questions that they or any other commissions might have. And you could see me in the audience shaking my head no. And so my concern was that we hadn't seen that report. The good news was there is a public art element that's in the front of that. That's required as a part of the public art requirements anytime there's development being done. There was a woman who lives on Olive Mill, the lane just down the way. She expressed regret on the fact that here this building built in 1901 was going to disappear and nobody would know why Olive Mill was named Olive Mill. And so she suggested, and it was prophetic, your discussions in the earlier meetings were requesting public art. Or requesting a monument. She suggested and made the suggestion that the public art somehow encapsulate the Olive Mill as its public art there in the front. And so that suggestion seemed to be well received by the planning commissioners. And I believe one of the amendments to their approval was the recommendation that in doing the public art, that it some way memorialize the Olive Mill that had been there. And so a couple things. I talked to the spokesman for the group and also to, I believe, the architect. They are, once the building is empty, that they will allow the museum in there to take pictures and to take video of that. Also, if there's any artifacts that are found on the property, not non-cultural related, non-Indian related, that they will advise the museum of that and offer those items to the museum. So on your suggestion on the memorializing it, it sounds like they're well on their way to doing that.
Well, I would like to see these treasures that are gone from us, and some of them are really important. I'm sure that David Mason would go on and on and on about the importance of the Olive Mill, because that was where, and I can't remember which of the Balds lived in that house and lived all the way up to the end of his life. And he was a very important historic figure in the history of Ojai. I would like to see, and the fact that the train station is just gone, and the train station was the hub of Ojai, and yet you just go down there and there's just the gravel road base from where the train tracks were, and there should be something commemorate that. And we have a list, and it's possible if we could kind of quantify these guys, marker number 1, or even just give it a landmark status. It doesn't make any difference to me, but somehow there should be something done for all of these places.
Points of interest.
Historic, a point of interest, yeah.
Do any other commissioners have budget request items? Mr. Winiger, future agenda items?
Yes, sir. I believe there's a table, and I do have amendments to this information. For your May 11th meeting, we omitted the fact that we are going to bring back the historic resource survey for the Ojai Grammar School. So that's our intention. Also, right now, tentatively, the joint meeting with the Arts Commission, or the
Arts Commission.
Is it the Arts Commission? It's not the...
No, it's
okay.
the Arts.
So it's
no,
the Arts...
Commissioner Wyrick pushed for the Arts Commission
Okay.
and the Historic Preservation Commission to meet together.
That meeting will tentatively be held on May 4th. So that's the week before your typical meeting. If that's the case, I wanted to ask commissioners, one, if that date is acceptable. That's the first meeting date, Thursday, that we can provide notice for the commission to approve the work permit for the gates. Has to be noticed as a public hearing. So that would be so we can't do it in the next couple of weeks. It has to wait for that date. So I wanted to ask if the commission is interested in combining your regular meeting into that meeting. So there'd be a joint meeting with the Arts Commission followed by your regular meeting.
May 11th, you mean?
May 4th, so foregoing the 11th for the 4th.
Oh.
Correct. So I'm just trying to save you, but if you want to have your regular meeting on the 11th,
Yeah.
happy to accommodate that as well.
Commissioner Akins?
Okay, just an update on the May 4th, and I got this update earlier this afternoon. I talked to the museum executive director, Wendy Barker. As Mark pointed out, the museum board met we're in April, right? At the end of March, they approved a new design. Doug Lochner the status on the gates the gates are set up so that they're not anchored in the arch, because the archway, again, is a national landmark. And so Doug is currently working with that design. Again, it's going to fit within that arch. So he's working to figure out how to make that happen. The other item that he's working on is the gates on the left side. As you come into the visitor center side from Blanche, there's an opening there, so he's looking at a design for the gates. Just a matter of history, again, talking to David Mason, that opening on the left did not exist at the time of the church. The museum actually made that opening. The only opening, the historical opening, if you go slightly down, you'll see a small opening with a wrought iron that went into a door that no longer exists. So again, looking at your timing, much of that timing depends upon Mr. Lochner, who's doing this work. If he gets that timing done soon enough, the museum board meets on the last Wednesday of the month. And so if he got it done soon enough, the museum board could look at that design and then make its recommendation. But I'm just saying this because it may be a little tight.
That sounds a little aggressive then. Maybe we just do it with your regular meeting date on the 11th. I'll talk to the city manager's assistant about that tomorrow. Thank you.
Would you please? Thank you.
Yes.
The big issue, as I see it with this joint meeting, and one of the problems is that the museum has hired, at this point, an artist to do the design, and they originally had those Art Nouveau, this designer did the Art Nouveau gates that turned out to go down in defeat. Not that it wasn't a beautiful possibility, but it just wasn't as historically appropriate. The thing is, if they make this, if the decision is made, correct me if I'm wrong, if they make this decision that this is public art, then the Arts Commission has a whole procedure that they go through that it has to be sent out to all the artists in the valley, and they can submit plans to do a gate. And that would leave this person who's worked in good faith with the museum kind of out there.
Can I address that too?
Is that correct?
I raised that issue when I was, before answering questions on the city council that night as regards to the gate, and Executive Director Wendy Barker was here too. If you read the information that was in the city council package, it looked like there were three alternatives for, basically, it was a directed, the other one was kind of a limited bid, and the other one was to open it to the public. They told me that's not the case. So I was thinking the same thing as you are, Commissioner Hill, and they told me that was not the case.
Because it would just delay the whole process of getting the gate, and I can just see that would be a circus.
So we'll just wait for you for the,
Yes, and
Resubmittal.
we'll provide you an update on what date works. And Commissioner Akins, I appreciate the background, and we'll follow up on that too.
Is that going to be an email?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I just want to be sure I understand. So May 4th is no longer on the table, right?
I
That's
will let
correct.
you know.
Well,
We will
'cause
let you know.
I'm not going to be here.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Okay.
So, I mean, I think we should at least ask that question.
And nobody will be here.
Looks like May 11th is the better choice, so
Majority Commission.
we'll work towards that. And that gives the museum a little more time to consider their options as well.
And who put these books together?
Oh, yes, thank you. I want to recognize Cheryl Davis, who was the principal staff member that put together the books. She was assisted by Sherry and Kathleen as well, but I thought she did a very good job.
Yeah,
Yes.
please thank her.
thank you so much.
Will do.
Yes, thank you. One other thing.
Commissioner Akins?
Okay, so I think Mr. Winiger mentioned this. Again, coming to that meeting Tuesday night, the other reason I was there was they were talking about the Ojai Elementary School property. I reiterated that we had come to the council some time ago, had secured from them funding for the two historical reports for here and for the Ojai Elementary School, that when we were doing this, we were doing it proactively so that if anyone ever thought about doing something to the Ojai Elementary School, we would be able to determine what's historical and what's not historical. And now through the extended amount of time that it's taken, we're not proactive anymore. We're like the tail that's way behind the dog because it's been so long getting this information. So in raising those concerns, I was shocked, saddened, upset to have Councilman Wyrick tell me that he had it's either a copy or a page of the Historical Resources Report that was dated January 2017. And, yeah, that just blew me off. So he said he had called to get that. I guess the people that are preparing the report. And he read a page from that report. Again, I thought he had the complete report. I talked to somebody else, and they thought he only had a page. The page he read from said that they found the Ojai Elementary School to be eligible to become a historical landmark. So again, we who were trying to be proactive are now coming far behind the process, but again, I was shocked. And so there seems to be, I talked to Mr. Winiger, and also I talked to City Manager McCleary about something else early last week, and the Ojai Elementary School came up, and it was, I thought that his impression that we may have already talked about it because I thought he had seen a draft report. I may be mistaken, so perhaps Mr. Winiger knows more.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I'm not sure who has copies of what. There is a draft that exists. My recollection it was provided to staff in March. I could be wrong. There was a delay, as I indicated to Commissioner Akins earlier today. There was a delay, originally both historic resource surveys for the Smith-Hobson and the school were on the same track. There was a delay in securing a lot of the documentation from the school district, so that is what the major source of the delay has been. In the last 30 days, there's been a couple other reasons. As I indicated, it will be coming to you at your next meeting. It is a public document, and we can actually provide, and we should provide that draft to the school district for their information, so they have an opportunity opportunity to make comments before the commission as well. So we'll follow up on that. But it certainly is considered a draft at this point, and that is available. So we'll be distributing that very quickly.
Thank you.
I have a comment about, I would like to add something to our next meeting to discuss, which is the role of the Historic Preservation Commission, exactly what we're supposed to be doing, because since I've been on this commission, but I want to talk about it. Since I've been on this commission, I've seen city council members step up with reports before we get them. I've seen discussions with the Planning Commission about historic properties that aren't designated. This not providing us with information that we've requested about the property of the Smith Hobson House, which is a very big deal. And I think we really need to talk about where we stand. Are we just like an ornament? What's the point of this commission? I think we need to set aside a few minutes and think about that and discuss it.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill?
Yes, in comment to what you just said, this commission is starting to grow up. And the fact that so many of you are new, and now you're starting to get the feel of what the context of what we're dealing with. One of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit was this, the binder. I requested a binder for all those people on the commission that didn't have one, and which is just about everybody. And then I went through my files and papers, and I pulled out of them this, and I was hoping that, and the reason I'm bringing this up now is it's important to all of you, is that there's certain sections in here that you should read, and one of them is an item called Attachment A, the Historic Context Statement that was done in May of 2009. And it is in this booklet.
Yeah, it's a really good, I've read it.
Yeah, and it gives you a really good little history of Ojai. So that for all the new people, that one would be something that you should really read.
Yeah, it helps you understand the architectural
Yeah.
and historical period.
The other thing is that these two documents were what we had, and we referred to it from time to time. And the city council and some of the agencies that are involved and the staff, this is what they had, was the resource book that we did on all the houses in Ojai and how they stand. Read that if you haven't, because this is a great old historical document too. And it also, the most current version of it is in this book. So thank you very much for doing this for everybody, because I use mine all the time. And one of the things that
I will
they
pass
always-
along your compliments, by the way. Thank you.
One of the things that the other book, my other book's about that much taller though. And we always had a picture of the Historic Preservation Commission that Sherry would come in here and take a picture of us, and we'd stand in front of the door between the two flags so that you get an idea just who was who on there. And they also had, I don't know if this one does or not, a list of phone numbers and email addresses that everybody could use and to get it right out of your book.
On the commission?
I
don't believe we have a roster.
Yeah, but we should, so that we can communicate. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Winiger. With that, we stand adjourned. Oh, I guess we don't. Commissioner Akins.
One quick thing, the city council held a planning and meeting a week ago Saturday morning. I heard reports from it. They again discussed reducing the commissions from 7 down to 5 and having the commissioners are the commission members on that to be all city residents. So I do want to echo the words of Christine Golden, who's on the Art Commission, who said, no, we need 7 and we need to open it up. And she listed several people on their commission and past commissions who are outside the city of Ojai. So I would like to do something similar. We have twice met and decided to recommend to the city council that we keep it at 7. To echo what Christine Golden said, had we only had city residents, we wouldn't have had the services of Patricia Clark Dorner for decades, I believe. We wouldn't have had the services of Craig Walker, who would still be here, but for some health issues. Our chair, Chair McCready, is an outsider from the city of Ojai. Our vice chair, myself, the one who's attending the city meetings, is outside the city of Ojai. So
Talent is all throughout the entire valley.
it is. We both inside the city and outside the city, I think, care about every part of our valley. And it is. It is. So yes, I care about the city of Ojai. I care about preserving it. It's what I want to leave as a legacy to my kids as they come back, and they'll love to come back, as well as for everybody else. And so that's what we're all dedicated to doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Akins. Commissioner Convery?
I would like to clarify my request to discuss our duties. I know there's a list of, there's the code in here, and we're supposed to approve landmarks and that kind of thing, but it doesn't talk about our relationship with the city council, a city councilman showing up with a preservation report before we're getting it, a planning commission deciding whether something is historic or not without bringing it over here. I think we need to have this conversation about relationships. 2 things have happened that I can think of. One is, and I believe it happened at our joint session. No, it's in here. I think Randy Haney Councilman Haney was assigned to this commission, and he made a comment about how we need, or the commissions in general, and this commission needs some kind of a historic expert around to guide us along. And I was sort of appalled because, frankly, I don't think he's ever seen my resume. I really, and most of us are pretty qualified as far as I know. So I thought that was appalling. He also made comments, he and another councilman made several comments during our joint session about building codes without referencing the California Historic Building Code, which is a completely different set of building codes, which we know about because we are qualified to be here. And I think we need to talk about how we interact, and it'll save us trouble in the long run.
I think those are good comments, and one thing that we've sort of lost institutionally is that every year we used to have a retreat, and that was the venue in which we would take up these things, and usually it was at Claire and Terry Hill's house with a great lunch. So, and maybe that's something that maybe that's a better format.
Yeah.
And may I suggest that we discuss that at our next meeting?
Or maybe we can make arrangements to have that retreat prior to our next meeting. We have a month, and it's a lunch. If we can find a date, I think sooner is better. Because summer starts, vacations happen, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
But it's an informal type of situation. It is what we had in the past. We started out holding it at different places, but then we were told that we couldn't do that because we were having these retreats at members' houses that were up on Sulphur Mountain, or like Pat Clark Dorner's way down up in the hills above Creek Road. It had to be in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that point on, since I have a house that's pretty central in town and close in proximity to a lot of historic landmarks, I had Cindy as a neighbor. I still do, kind of And we would have the meeting there, and it was always noticed. The public was invited, and my house is handicap accessible, and so it worked pretty good. And we had it was kind of informal. We had a regular agenda, and then we had a big luncheon afterwards, and it just, I can remember Darwin scooting out of there. He talked and talked and talked, and he had to get to a Super Bowl game or something. He was gonna wear a chicken suit.
You have to bring that up.
But it was fun. No more. It was fun, and the staff, our staff person, always took part in it too. So we had people from the city as well as our commission.
Can we talk to Claire about this, or is she available to do this again?
I think she would say okay. But you better do it pretty soon, because my days on this commission, I said once before that they're getting pretty close to the end. Yeah, I have really bad legs, and it's a big chore to come down here and to go to the places that you do. I would love to go on scavenger hunts with Brian. I'd love to go with a bunch of you down to SC for the meetings, but I just can't. So, but if you're gonna wanna do one this year, I'll talk to her about it tonight.
Between May.
Thank you.
and June.
I'll see what she says.
Thank you. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We're still on.
I told her 2 hours.
Double check. Turn that off, Steve.